Currently, there are over 1,300 cases of COVID-19 across the country, and that number continues to rise. We continue to talk about interprovincial travel, out-of-country travel, and screening, and those measures are being put in place in various parts of the country, and those discussions are ongoing. And I want to thank Islanders every day for their understanding and patience and compliance following our screening measures and our messaging around staying at home and self-isolation and social distancing. Today, I am confirming that we have our third confirmed COVID-19 case on Prince Edward Island. This is an international travel-related case, a woman in her 20s from Queens County. She arrived in Canada on March 14th and flew into Toronto. She actually stayed at a hotel in order to self-isolate, and on March the 16th, she flew from Toronto to Moncton on a WestJet flight 3456, which left Toronto at 8:35 in the morning and arriving in Moncton at 12:05 p.m. She then traveled to Prince Edward Island by passenger vehicle, and once she was at home, she self-isolated and then was subsequently tested. I spoke to her this morning myself, and she's at home and doing well. Very mild symptoms. Again, we have another example of international travel with our case in P.E.I. and another case where she followed the recommendations and knew about self-isolation. Public Health has been following up this afternoon with anyone who may have been in contact with this individual, and that will continue as we reach out as well to Ontario and to New Brunswick over the evening. Yesterday we talked about the interprovincial screening and that anyone traveling to Prince Edward Island from another province within Canada must self-isolate for 14 days. And this is in addition to anyone coming in from out of country, also to self-isolate for 14 days. And these screening measures are now in place at all entry points into the province, at the airport and at the Confederation Bridge, and this afternoon at the Magdalen Island Ferry Terminal in Surrey. And these screening measures really have been put in place not only to make sure that we can find anyone who may be sick coming into the province and identify people with symptoms, but also, and maybe more importantly, to re-emphasize and reinforce the self-isolation that we have given direction on. And so to reiterate, if you're returning to P.E.I. from anywhere out of country or out of province, you need to self-isolate for 2 weeks. However, there are exceptions that are in place for essential workers like truck drivers, airline crews, essential frontline workers in the public and private sector, and workers in critical sectors. And certainly we'll be having available more detail on that on the website. And of course, and I think in our clarification, and we sometimes forget to mention, there are exceptions for compassionate grounds, and that will always be important. We have spoken to some of the people who worked last evening, and we appreciate everyone who was screened at the airport and the bridge last night being so cooperative and willing to work with the folks that were doing that screening. As of 1 o'clock today, there have been well over 390 tests conducted in P.E.I., and we've had 231 negative tests and awaiting test results on the others. And then again, we've had the 3 positive tests. I know I've been asked to clarify and comment on a number of other issues as well, and I I'd like to do some of that tomorrow. Today really is just a short update because I didn't want to wait until tomorrow to let people know about our third case. And I do want to mention that we talk about it every day, but these social distancing measures, which are really physical distance measures, but we are trying somehow to keep socially connected and emotionally connected. And a colleague in another part of the country mentioned the same thing on a call this afternoon, and I thought it was really important, a way of expressing that. How do we keep physically distant yet maintain some of that emotional and social connection? And I understand through Facebook groups and other telephone lines that people are really reaching out to one another in P.E.I, and I think it is amazing and very supportive in a really difficult time that we're in. I'm going to just try to summarize the case in French and then open it up to questions. Aujourd'hui, on annonce le 3e cas de COVID-19 à l'île du Prince-Édouard. Elle est une femme mi-20 ans qui vient de retourner du voyage en Espagne. Et elle est retournée au Canada le 14 mars et puis retournée à l'île du Prince-Édouard par avion de Toronto à Moncton en premier sur WestJet, et puis le numéro de vol était 3456 de Toronto jusqu'à Moncton le 16 mars, et puis elle est de Moncton à Charlottetown. Elle était c'était vraiment Moncton à l'île du Prince-Édouard. Elle était en voiture privée. Je l'ai parlé ce matin. Elle est en bonne santé. Elle est chez elle et elle reste en auto-isolement. Partout au pays, il y a plus de 1300 cas et on continue de mettre un grand de message à propos de la distance sociale et de rester chez vous et de auto-isoler si vous avez besoin, et que les mesures qu'on a mises en place aujourd'hui, ça va faire une différence dans les semaines qui suivent. Je vais ouvrir pour les questions. I'm going to open up for a few questions, and then we'll be back tomorrow too.
Travis Kingdom, CBC.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you could tell us any more about where this individual might have traveled to, and did she isolate immediately when she came home, and then when she was tested, things like that?
Yes, so she was traveling in Spain and then flew to Toronto and then isolated in a hotel so that she would, as opposed to staying with friends or family, and then flew in on the 16th of March, and she into Moncton, and then she immediately upon return she went directly to self-isolating herself, and she was tested the 17th of March and has been in self-isolation since that time.
And should other people on that flight from Toronto to Moncton be self-isolating right now?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I should have probably been very clear about that. So passengers on the flight are being asked to self-isolate for 14 days. And if they develop symptoms, call 811. Now, this is consistent. Anyone who would have been traveling internationally has to self-isolate for 14 days coming into this country. So that's for everyone. And then advice for those returning travelers as well who may have been flying just domestically from Toronto to Moncton. So I've just sent a message to Moncton as well as to Public Health Agency of Canada to notify them.
Mike Robar, The Guardian.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just wondering, I know you mentioned earlier in the week that the way these plane manifests work, you don't always get to know, everyone on the plane, within so many rows. Do you know any numbers of Islanders that might have been on that flight into Moncton?
No, I do not. And I think at this point in time with so many people on airplanes, the decision has been to make sure you give that advice to everyone on the plane. And so I do not know at this point how many Islanders may have been on that plane.
Okay. And the people that she traveled with, I assume they've been contacted, or was that a shuttle service of some sort?
So she traveled by private vehicle from Moncton to Prince Edward Island, and any close contacts and those kind of contacts would have been followed up. That contact follow-up would have started this afternoon after I spoke with the case.
Okay, thank you.
Julien Lecacheur, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour.
Docteur Morrison, question par rapport au screening test, les contrôles au pont de la Confédération. Personnellement, je me suis rendu au pont de la Confédération aujourd'hui. On parle de simples questions. Si vous n'avez pas de symptômes, vous prenez une feuille d'information et vous pouvez passer. Comment pouvez-vous vous assurer que toutes les personnes qui arrivent à l'île du Prince-Édouard peuvent s'auto-isoler ou s'auto-isolent après le passage de ce contrôle, par exemple au pont de la Confédération?
On avait beaucoup de discussions sur cette question aujourd'hui et puis je pense que demain, j'aurai plus de détails à propos de vraiment le renforcement du self-auto-isolement. Alors, je vais en parler plus demain.
Juste pour terminer sur cette question-là, on est d'accord que les personnes aujourd'hui qui arrivent, par exemple, par le pont de la Confédération avec leur voiture, s'ils n'ont pas de symptômes et qu'on ne leur dit rien, est-ce qu'ils sont obligés quand même de s'auto-isoler ou ils peuvent passer et vivre leur vie normale?
Non, les personnes qui arrivent hors du province, s'ils viennent d'Ontario en voiture, s'ils viennent de Québec ou n'importe où, ou hors du pays, c'est auto-isolement pour les 14 jours. Sauf s'il y a des exemptions, si vous êtes en train de, comme un conducteur d'un camion, il y a des exceptions, mais il faut quand même chaque jour faire des checks pour votre santé si vous êtes comme quelqu'un qui conduit un camion, par exemple.
Merci.
Laurent Rigaud, La Voix acadienne.
Hello?
Oui, vous m'entendez, docteur Morrison?
Oui, je t'entends.
Oui, bonjour, Laurent Rigaud. J'avais juste une question sur cette dame qui est revenue d'Espagne. Quand est-ce qu'elle a commencé à avoir des symptômes du Covid-19? Quand est-ce qu'elle a été testée à Lille?
Alors, elle a eu des symptômes avant d'arriver, je pense vraiment au Canada. Je sais qu'elle a des symptômes en arrivant ici à l'île du Prince-Édouard et c'est pour cette raison qu'on demande aux gens sur le vol aussi de auto-isoler. Oui, c'est avant qu'elle vienne d'être ici.
Et elle a été testée à quelle date, s'il vous plaît?
Elle est retournée à l'île-du-Prince-Édouard le 16 mars, mais c'était Toronto à Moncton et puis Moncton à l'île-du-Prince-Édouard la même journée.
Merci. Merci.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll be back tomorrow.